Welcome back to another episode of Hannah Hotline. So pumped to be here with you today. And as usual, if you have your own Hannah Hotline email, a career dilemma, I would love to hear them, feature them on the podcast and the Daily Telegraph. You can email me at hello@hannahkissel.com. All right, today we have a bit of a doozy, so buckle up. Okay. Dear Hannah, I have an odd situation. I'm a millennial and have a boomer boss who I genuinely like. He's a great guy, except sometimes he can say really off-color misogynistic comments. One time, he called my pregnant teammate disabled and then said we couldn't fire her because of her unstable condition. Okay, yes, so I would say you do have a really big problem here with your boss because that is completely inappropriate. Oftentimes, these comments are just to me in our one-on-ones, and it's like he's letting me into the cool club. Sometimes he's really relaxed with our budgets and says we can wine and dine our clients, and other times he gets angry when we put too much money on the company card. Okay, yeah, so this is extremely disorienting emotionally because you don't know what to expect. So you don't know if one minute he's okay, and at the next minute he is going to be really upset by something that you're doing, and it sounds like it could be the same action, which can create a lot of emotional instability in the workplace. Recently, I had an unexpected family emergency. I'm really sorry. I hope everything's okay. And needed to take time off work. He checked in on me daily, saying I could take as much time as I needed. He can be thoughtful and warm, but then erratic. I have emotional whiplash trying to keep up. I don't want to quit, but I'm unsure how to manage his mood swings or even what to say to him when he says politically incorrect things that I don't agree with. Can you help me navigate this? Silent but questioning. All right, silent. So this is a really hard one because, on one hand, you're saying he's a really nice guy. He's there for you emotionally. He said that was checking in on you during a family emergency. But then on the other hand, he's making these really inappropriate comments, which are actually definitely classed as bullying and harassment, those types of comments that he made, even if they're not directed at you, it's still considered bullying. So what is happening here is there's like almost an emotional disturbance going on in you that I'm sensing because you don't know what to predict. And when we don't know what to predict, things get really hard and usually we get on edge and what's called hypervigilance. So you are always kind of hyper aware of what's going to happen. This does tend to happen sometimes if you grew up in a house where you had a parent who you didn't know how they would react when they would come home. Were they going to be really happy? Were they going to be angry? Were they going to be drinking? Then you start to develop a really acute emotional awareness of what other people's behaviors are. So I could see that in the work environment, this would actually cause hypervigilant behavior where you're kind of always on edge. You have what you're calling emotional whiplash and you don't know what to do day in, day out. Now, I will say that these comments are not okay, especially him calling your pregnant teammate disabled and saying that you couldn't fire her because of her unstable condition. Yeah, that's really not okay. But given that there is a power dynamic here and that power dynamic can't be ignored, he is the boss. You are the employee. So he does hold more power than you do in this situation. Now, also, you are a millennial, and I don't want to stereotype here, but usually millennials have a lot more people-pleasing tendencies. They overwork more, and this is compared to their Gen Z counterparts. So you might feel like you can't say anything here. However, if you are uncomfortable with these comments, I would encourage you saying something, whether it's to him or to someone else. So something that you can do is there a stakeholder in the organization that is at your boss's level who you have a relationship with? But let's say you are a female, go to someone that, you might feel more comfortable going to someone that is also a female, someone that's of the same gender as you, or it could be a trusted male colleague, and just let them know that these comments are going on. If you want to go to HR, of course, HR is always there. Although sometimes HR is there to protect more the organization than the employee. So it just depends on your organization. But you do have have a case here and of potential harassment and bullying, even if the comments aren't necessarily directed at you. So what you can do is you can actually just say something the next time he says this, gauge his reaction, and you could just say, hey, I don't really like those comments. And, you know, my pregnant teammate isn't actually disabled. She's pregnant. Like, I'd appreciate if you didn't say the comments. However, you might be scared to do that. So another thing that you can do is if you do have a trusted colleague that's on the same peer level as your boss, letting them know what's going on in this scenario and then saying, okay, I am going to say this. I'm going to ask him to not say these comments anymore. Just so you have support and someone also knows that you're saying something in case there is any retaliation. Now, then you could have a case which, let's say, worst case scenario here is you were to say something, you were to get fired for it, for something else completely irrelevant, you then would have a case, which also comes back to document everything. So again, if you have a trusted peer, if you have a teammate at work, documenting everything and even sending in an email, this was the comment that was made. If comments are made during a team meeting, you can document these with a teammate by sending an email just so someone is there to corroborate your story if you do decide to escalate this in further notice. However, I also understand that it seems like you've got a really good relationship with him. It seems like he makes these comments that are just off color, but he's also really kind to you, which again can be very distressing because you don't know what to expect. So you might not want to make a formalized report, in which case you don't need to. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to here, but still document everything. Let's just talk about how to make things a little bit more consistent for yourself. So you mentioned that he's got different types of reactions to the same behavior. Sometimes it's okay if you wine and dine clients. Other times he gets really frustrated or angry if you spend a lot of clients. I don't know, you could be mentioning that, to your coworkers, like, oh, he's in a mood today, whatever it is. But you might know what scenarios these erratic moods bring up in him. So, for example, you definitely know that taking your clients out, sometimes he's okay with it, sometimes he's not okay with it. To make things more consistent for yourself, I would also send him an email, put it in writing, and saying, this is what I plan to do, confirming that that's okay with you, confirming that that's within budget. Just because you don't want to do something and then have him react later to it when it was okay last week, but it's not okay this week. Or you could actually just have a separate meeting about this issue and call that out. Say, hey, I'm actually unsure what you're comfortable with here. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not okay. Is it clients that are spending above a certain budget? Do we have to make a certain budget in order to take clients out? But just asking these questions is going to get you some clarity. And every time that he responds differently to a similar situation, keep asking for clarity and also keep confirming with him what you are going to do before you do it. That way you can almost control and sometimes, predict what these behaviors are. Not that it's your job to. And I also want to caveat that controlling someone else's moods or having to step around someone else's moods is really not your job. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people in the workplace have to do this, but it is just the reality of working in an organization. So let's try to minimize harm for you, as much harm as you can. Okay, this was definitely a little bit of a hairier one. So best of luck with this. Let me know how it goes. Good luck. And just remember, document everything, talk to a trusted source, choose your words and make sure that things are really clear on what you can and can't do so that at least you can control what you can control here. Let me know how it goes. And if you have a listener question, please email hello@hannahkissel.com. I would love to have you featured on the pod, and I will see you in 2 weeks.
Hannah Hotline. Email her and you'll be fine. When your brain goes bing, bang, bonka, bing, boom. Email Hannah Hotline.
Hannah Hotline is sponsored by Dominic Jingles, where quirky, clever and corporate branding is reimagined. DM Dominic on Instagram @Dominic Jingles or email dominicenglish04@gmail.com.